the first thing to understand with the kingdom story is that there are competing Christian narratives. So throughout your life, maybe if you grew up in the church or you've heard this kind of language, there are a few different narratives going around within the church at large that don't necessarily align with each other. So the first one is the Genesis 3 through Revelation 19 narrative. And in this narrative, Genesis 3 equals sin. So Genesis 3 is sin, equals sin, and that is the fall, Adam and Eve, disobeying God, being kicked out of the garden. And then we have Revelation 19, that equals condemnation. So we've got the beginning with the fall, the garden, sin being committed, and then we have the end, Revelation 19, condemnation. Jesus coming back, throwing everything to hell in a handbasket, and the elite that have, chosen to believe in and follow Jesus going to heaven, and that is the end. And that narrative produces the world is going to hell, so just sit back and wait until heaven. So this narrative has been one that has been shaped within the church. And we have to ask ourselves, how has this moved us to becoming a cultural responder? If you maybe grew up with this mindset of like, I'm a Christian so that I can get to heaven and I'm just waiting for that to come, what tends to be bred out of that is criticism, anger, you're always ready to have an opinion. Let's hide out from the world around us. Let's bunker down because everyone's going to hell. Fear, anxiety. It causes us to not engage with our culture, but rather hide from it because we think it's doomed to begin with, and to not focus on the restoration and the healing and the freedom that Jesus wants to bring. It takes our focus off on earth as it is in heaven, but rather shifts us to, we just need to make it to heaven. So that's one narrative. Another Christian narrative that we see is merging the American dream with following Jesus. Merging the American dream with following Jesus. So if I work hard and follow Jesus, things will just turn out well. And this narrative is really tricky because no one would say, who has portrayed this narrative, no one would say that they're doing this, that the American dream and Jesus go. I mean, maybe some people would. I don't know anyone that would just right out say that, but it can be reflected in our theology and our discipleship. We look at America as this land of golden and rich opportunity, and we can honestly get really distracted and really caught up in what America has shaped our lives to be versus what Jesus has shaped our lives to be. So it's, from the moment you're in kindergarten, it's like your life goal is going to be to make it through school, go to college, get a really great job, great house, money, success, and comfort. And Jesus can tell you the complete opposite, right? Jesus could tell you to not go to college. He could tell you to live, I don't want to say Jesus could tell you to live broke, but he could tell you to live broke. Jesus was broke, okay? And so were all the disciples. So he could tell you to live below your means and do a trade for a living that maybe isn't super prestigious, or not, you're not moving up the corporate ladder. These are things that over the last decades have slowly seeped into the church to kind of twist this narrative of the kingdom story is just about living this great and beautiful life, success, and dying and going to heaven. And just like with the secular salvation story, if we're not careful, these different narratives, the narrative of condemnation and hell, and the narrative of success and wealth, they can slip into our perspectives and they can really blur us. And we can become critical of others, obsessed with success, achievement, comfort, and cover it all up with scripture. But there is a much better and holistic narrative of Scripture that God gives us when it comes to the kingdom story.